one time, then I fell again. I fell a third time, can't get away from the sin. I keep falling, then I come back to you, crawling, asking forgive me now I'm ballin', knowing that I let you down, appalling. I don't wanna jeopardize my calling. When I hear your voice no more I'm halting. I just wanna live in the world you're revolving. I am so imperfect I'm getting involved in these flesh-tied friends, the blind consulting, pulling me away from the world and revolting. Asking for forgiveness is probably insulting, but you keep taking me back and you're vaulting. Give me chances. You keep giving me chances. You give me chances. You just keep giving me chances. King. Royalty, stand up, brand up, fam up, hand out, no way, hands up, know what, name that, it's mine, claim that, it's time, message, we shine, above all, the decline, the darkness cannot last, the shadow of my past, before I gain knowledge of heritage, I have the bloodline that I share, most powerful out here, the mover of mountains is who I am touting, the richest among us is who I'm the son of, from sundown to sun up, that's how I the come up, position is just mine, the favor in due time, can't have it, man you lying, the powerless you trying, enemy beneath me, there's nothing to teach me, the people receive me, cause my God complete me, and my God does keep me, and my God they free me, and my God redeem me, and my God relieve me, I'm king in the million, crown me, I am winning my position, God's giving, God's in it, God's surely king. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff. I am here today. You know, in light of every crazy thing going on in the world, just like my microphone falling. Okay, in light of every crazy thing going on in the world, kindness is something that I think every single person on earth could use a lesson in. And I think I have the perfect person to have a conversation about kindness with. Her name is Orly Wahba, and she is a motivational speaker, an educator, entrepreneur, film director. It's going to be super cool to talk to her. Orly, how are you?
Oh, Shawn, it's awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here on the Elevation Podcast.
It's so cool to have you on here. I got an opportunity, to watch your video or your film. Interestingly enough, I'd seen it before, but I didn't know that it's called The Kindness Boomerang. And 100 million people have watched it in the last, I think it's 9 years old. What it has to be something that motivated you to make that film. What was it before we get into my normal kit and caboodle? What was it that motivated you to make that particular film?
Wow, I got to tell you, thinking back at Kindness Boomerang and all the people's lives that it's impacted.
Yeah.
I have to say it's probably one of the greatest achievements. And I know that it has nothing to do with me. I believe that, we all have a calling, things that we're meant to put into the world. The question is, are we going to pick up that phone? Are we going to answer that call? And thankfully I was able to. I mean, really my story of what inspired me to create that begins way back from when I was a kid. I always, since 4 years old, very much believed in my heart that I was meant to do something to bring people together in this world. And when you know your why, your how ends up finding its way towards you. And I always knew that from
it figures itself out.
Yeah, I was actually a middle school teacher when I created that film. When I created Kindness Boomerang, I was teaching 7th and 8th grade for 7 incredible years, life transforming years. Yeah. And my students that actually gave me the courage to say, Orly, the messages that you're sharing with us here in the classroom, the messages of kindness, compassion, empathy, you got to bring it out into the world. Right. And I had a background in film production. I said, I want to be able to show people the ability that kindness has to go from one person to the next.
Sure.
That it has to just energize people. It's this energy that just continues to get passed. And so because I'm a teacher, I had summers off. And I sat down and I said, all right, you know what? I had a background in film production. Why don't I film this? Why don't I create this as a film? And I started writing all of these kindness experiences that I personally went through, moments in my life that left an impression on me. So
Sure.
every scene in the film that you saw is actually based on real life experiences.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome.
And I said, all right, I got to do this. I was really nervous because it had been 7 years since I had done film.
Right.
And everyone in my close proximity was discouraging me. They're like, what are you doing? Who do you think you're going to reach? Why are you investing all your money into this? You think you're going to make a difference? But I knew I had to do it. And it was such an incredible experience. I remember the morning before filming, and I felt an energy on that street because it was all done in one shot. There are no cuts to show that fluidity of kindness. And it was right after I shot it, I went back to teaching that week after. And when I got back, that 4-year-old kid I told you about started dreaming again and dreaming really big. And I said, if I believe in this enough, I got to go all in. And that's when I told the school that I'd be taking the following year off to pursue this dream I had in my heart since I was a child. The dream of unifying the world through the power of kindness, but more than anything, helping people see just how valuable they are. That it's the simple things that we do that truly make an impact and a difference in this world. That's our greatest legacy.
That's awesome.
That's how Kindness Boomerang came to be.
Wow, that's super awesome. That is a super awesome. I want to go back for a second because I don't want to just jump into conversations, even though I just did that. Sorry. I want to talk a little bit about you, where you're from, and sort of what makes you like, you're this, you've got all this energy and you're just, super inspirational. So like, what brought you to that? What's your story? What's your process?
So I'll tell you, like I said, my journey began since being a 4-year-old kid. That's really one of my first memories. And I remember my dad, tucking me into bed every night. And he always made me believe that anything I wanted to achieve was possible. I have to say, faith is a very big part of my life. For me personally, it's a huge part of my life. And it was ever since I was a kid. And I believed that there was something I was meant to do in this world, to bring people together, not understanding where animosity comes from or hatred. Like, why is there so much separation between people or hatred, animosity between people of different faiths or backgrounds or races or religions? Like, why does it actually exist? And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it at all. And it would hurt me. I felt that pain in my heart.
Yeah.
I knew I was meant to do something to bring people together. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. And growing up, talking about wanting to change the world as a little kid, people think you're nuts.
Right.
And as you get older and you start talking about it, they think you're even more nuts. I'm oftentimes very discouraged in that regard. Like, oh, you're so naive. You think you're going to make a difference. You think you really. And the biggest problem is that when people tell you that you can't do something enough times, the biggest danger is that you can come to believe it yourself.
Absolutely.
That's when everything can go downhill.
Absolutely.
And for me, that happened a lot in my childhood years. I was actually a very shy kid. I wouldn't be talking on a podcast, that's for sure. I wouldn't even raise my hand in class. I promise everyone, you don't understand how shy I was. I was the shyest kid in the room, okay? And I went through hardships with self-confidence, like we all go through, by the way, like we all go through. Yeah. A lot of it came about in my middle school years. Middle school is a tough time in trying to figure out, who you are and develop your identity. And I'll never forget, in the very beginning of my 7th grade year, came into school, first day of school, and all my friends, just it was like that with a snap of a finger, just sort of turned on me. What do I mean? You can't sit with us here at lunch. You make plans on the weekend. Everybody tells you that they're doing something else, and you find out they're all hanging out together.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a day that I didn't go to the nurse's office. Not one day that I wasn't in the nurse's office. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like I wasn't seen. It really took a stab at my sense of confidence, and I sort of retreated even more into myself. And then going into high school with those feelings of insecurity makes things much worse. Now, I always loved people, okay?
Right.
You know, I was that kid, if you were absent from school, whether I knew you, didn't know you, I was that kid that would, you know, take notes and bring it to you the next day.
I haven't met any of that kid before.
I did. And, you know, in high school, my sophomore year, probably one of the greatest things happened to me. Now, at the time, it was also the greatest tragedy, but I find that sometimes the greatest tragedies in our lives push us and elevate us to a whole nother level. They push us to bust out of where we are to where we can be. And that's really what happened to me. In the beginning of my sophomore year, we had a fire in my house. And overnight, my family lost everything.
Wow.
I can't explain, you know, losing your entire home. I thank God we were okay. I'm one of 5 kids. But it does something to you. And it wasn't just a fire. It was one of those years, you know. It's not hard for us to understand after a 20 year. It was one of those years where everything that could go wrong just went wrong.
Sure.
And we thought it couldn't get worse. It got worse and worse. My dad had lost his business. It was 6 years, Shawn. It was 6 years until my family lived under the same roof.
Wow.
But that first year was was the hardest. And seeing my parents come, you know, seeing them the day after the fire, broken, it shifted something in me I can't explain. And I didn't want to be a burden on my family, so I hid my emotions from them. My friends didn't know what to say to me, you know. I would bring up something, but they just change the subject. They know what to say to me. They're 15. They're going through their own stuff.
Right.
And so I hid my emotions from them, but you can't really do that for very long.
Right.
And one night I went to sleep, and I sort of just didn't wake up the next day. I fell into a state of really dark depression. When I say dark, I mean suicidal dark.
Wow.
Honestly, I was really angry at everybody. I was angry at the whole world.
Right.
I didn't know how to make sense of everything. And during that time that I was home from school, for those several months, not one person called. Not one person came to visit. And that made me feel like, well, if I wasn't here tomorrow, would it make a difference to anybody? I mean, would it really matter? And it felt like the answer was no. And I was angry at my family, angry at my friends, angry at God, angry at everybody.
Right.
And I just wanted it to end. And I was forced to go back to school after several months, but I wasn't the same kid. I was that kid in the corner. Didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't care about my schooling. I let everything drop. I didn't care. I just didn't care. And I just wanted to disappear. And one not so very special day, I was getting up and I was washing up in the bathroom to go get ready for school. And I was looking at myself in the mirror. I was really looking at myself in the eyes. And the scariest thing happened. I didn't see me. I didn't see that 4-year-old Orly staring back at me.
Right.
It was like she was gone. It was like somebody took her. And that scared me more than anything in the world. And I didn't know how I was going to pick myself back up, but I made a promise to myself at that day. It was a promise that guided me to my year's teaching, that guided me to what I do with Life Essence Side. And it's, to be honest, it's a promise that guides me and wakes me up every morning to whatever's next coming in my life. And it was a promise to be there for people the way I wish somebody would have been there for me, to see people the way I wish somebody would have seen me. Because at the end of the day, it's really all we want in this world, to be seen, to know that we make a difference. Those next few years of high school, I was sort of walking alone, which isn't easy to do. You know, walking alone in high school is very tough. Trying to, you know, even walking down the middle of the gym, you know, in lunch in high school is tough. But it gave me the greatest opportunity in the world. It gave me an opportunity to do something we don't even get to do as adults. It gave me the chance to sort of fall in love with me for me. Not because I wanted to impress that guy or the other. I wanted to be included in that group of friends. I got to actually get to see me.
Right.
In my senior year of high school, when we were, you know, on a seminar with the students in my class, we were sitting in a circle and the teacher was talking about obstacles, and I did something I never did before. I raised my hand and I had some contribute. And kids came up to me afterwards, and kids that I used to be so super intimidated of, and were asking me for advice. And what I found is that the more I gave, the more I healed, and the more I gave, the more I healed.
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
recognized that there are two types of giving in this world. And while I was always a giver, there's two kinds. One of them is really positive, and one of them is really dangerous. There's giving from strength, and then there's giving from weakness. And giving from strength comes from a place of abundance. You understand and recognize your value. Therefore, it's like a candle, right? It can light other candles, yet still retain its flame. Giving from strength is abundance, but giving from weakness sort of feels like sacrifice. It depletes you. So I always tell people, if your giving feels like sacrifice, you need to stop giving right away outwardly, and you need to turn the giving on yourself. Because only when we're full with who we are can it really come from that positive place. Otherwise, it could become dangerous to the point where you can come to resent that same giving. So I learned that in that exact time frame. And I started getting involved in loads of different community projects and services, activities. And the more I started to give, the more I continued to, in a sense, build up my life vest. You know, what's the difference between a life vest that will allow somebody to drown and one that will allow someone to stay afloat? It's air.
Right.
And the more that you give from your air supply, the more you give, the stronger that vest becomes. And the stronger it becomes, the more likely you are to be able to stay afloat. And when you're able to stay afloat, you can lift others as well. And so, you know, from there, that led me to teaching. And like I said, that led me to the work I did with, that I do and continue to do with Life Vest Inside.
That's so super cool. You know, you've got a lot, a lot of stuff to share, a lot of like useful things. You got involved, like you got to speak on like a TED Talk. How did that come about, and
Oh my
and
God.
how did how did that feel?
That was pretty crazy. I have to tell you, you know, this was in 2013 that I spoke at TED. At the time in 2012, a friend of mine knew that I was like really interested in TED, but I didn't even bother to apply. I was like, I don't know, I'm going to apply. I don't. It's so crazy to get in. They're not going to choose me. Now he sent me a message and he said, Orly, they're doing this thing called the TED Talent Search, where they're traveling all over the world and they're selecting between 25 to 30 people from each country. You have a short form talk, and then from all of those people from around the world, they're going to be selecting some to go on to speak at the actual TED. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply. It was this like short form application. You have to make a 1 minute video. Understand? A 1 minute video. That's crazy fast. You got to be like, how are you going to be, you know, putting everything into 1 minute video?
Right.
And it was due the next day. So I said, you know what? I got to do this. I'm going to try. Right? You have to put yourself out there. You never know if things are going to happen.
Never do.
You got to put yourself out there.
You never know.
So I applied. And then a couple months later, I get an email that they selected me as one of, I think it was 30 people. And the following week, they were going to be doing a talk in New York with these 30 people as part of their world tour. And I couldn't believe it. I remember I was in the car and I pulled over to the side. I started jumping up and down. I was so excited. But then all of a sudden the nerves came in and I was so nervous. I'm like, what in the world am I doing? I don't even understand. You know, I have to tell you, no matter how many times I speak in whatever stages in front of whatever amount of people, that nervousness is there till this very day. I always do that. I always do.
It never goes away. It goes away maybe a couple of minutes after you start on the stage and after you get into your groove, then it goes away. But that initial nervousness, like standing backstage and, you know, someone handing you a microphone and walking out to this, it never goes away. You think that after a while you just get used to it. You just don't.
You're 100% right. And then when I came, you had to do rehearsals for this talk. Rehearsal. I never prepared a talk in my life. You know, I just usually if I'm going to give a talk, like I just will speak about a topic. I never wrote an actual script of a talk. I said, how am I supposed to do this? It's crazy. And I remember I gave the talk at the rehearsal, and you know, and I'm sitting, and all of a sudden, right in front of me. Okay, so the guys that were sitting there that were watching the rehearsals So he comes up to me, this is Chris Anderson, okay, and he gives me a big hug. And I didn't even, to be very honest, I didn't know who he was at the time. I really didn't. Had no clue.
Right.
And he gives me a big hug, and he had tears in his eyes, and he says, "I want you with me at TED." I said, "What are you talking about? What is he? Guys must be crazy." And the day of the talk in New York, he comes up to me and basically said to me the thing that scared me to death. He's like, we're putting you last. I said, "Oh my God." You know, the worst is to go, you have to sit through 30 people doing their thing. And that only means your nervousness is increasing more and more and more every second. So my heart, I can't tell you, it was not normal, the nervousness. And I really didn't think I did a good job on that talk specifically. That was like the qualifying talk to get you into TED. I didn't think I did a good job. I was so mad at myself. I remember I was like so down on myself because of the nerves. And they put the talks up, and they said basically over the summer, those that are going to be getting the most reviews or whatever it is, they're going to be selecting some. September comes. I went through the whole summer. I'm like, all right, I didn't hear from them. It's fine. You know, Orly, you're going to continue. You're doing what you're doing, you know, with or without TED. You're still doing what you're doing. Doesn't make a difference.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I get the call, and I freaked out. And they told me that I was going to be going to the main TED stage. And guess where they put me in the lineup again at the main TED? You have 5 days of speakers. You have to understand. They put me in the last day to close the event. Like I think I was the second to last. So again, nervousness, like a crazy person. But yeah, it was quite an experience. You know, I won't go into the whole thing, but it was definitely quite an experience. It was a very hard experience, to be honest. I very rarely shared the actual experience at TED, but to be honest, it was a very, very emotional week for me. Really emotionally charged. It was probably, as crazy as it's going to sound, it was probably a very low point for me. I was feeling loads of different emotions during that week that were very difficult. I couldn't believe I actually made it through the week.
Right.
But what I realized is that, and again, we remember this during many times in our lives, you know, that sense of insecurity can creep up on us no matter how far we get in our lives or how many accomplishments we've had. Those things of insecurity can come to anybody. I got to tell you, I don't care. The person that you look up to the most, that you think has got everything together, I promise you that person has insecurities too. And they question and they doubt. We have our ups and we have our downs. But yeah, it was a pretty intense experience, and I'm grateful that I had it.
That is so cool. So, tell me about your transition from coming out of being a teacher, you know, and transitioning to like going full time into what you do. Like, tell how did it come about? How did you know when it was time to like throw down the 9 to 5 and go all in?
That's a really great question, and I think there's two parts to it. One of it is when, you know, right after I shot the film, right after I shot Kindness Boomerang. It was September 1st, 2010. That's when I shot it. Now you have to understand, nobody saw the film. I didn't put it online until the following year after I left teaching, meaning it only went up online October 2011.
Wow.
And that year, right when I got back, right after I filmed, I was, you know, teaching. And like I said, that 4-year-old kid in me started dreaming bigger. And I said to myself, look, Orly, if you believe in this and you talk to your students about pursuing their dreams, right, then you got to go all in. I was only planning to take a year off from teaching. That was it.
Right.
I love teaching. I was planning to take a year off and say, what happens if I put my all? And the truth is, so I took that year off, put that film up online. Within a month, I had only just stopped teaching. The film had gone crazy viral. I was planning to take that year to really build the foundations of the organization. I figured, you know, slow and steady kind of thing. And suddenly, overnight, it was just being bombarded with thousands upon thousands of comments on a daily basis.
Wow.
I didn't have a website at the time. I didn't have a board. I had no staff. I didn't have any experience, not only in nonprofit, but I didn't have any tech background or experience or marketing experience. Like, I just knew my why. And to be honest, that's really my biggest driving force. I learned a lot. Suddenly I had to wear all of these different hats. And the biggest teacher of life is life itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I didn't go to school for learning how to, create an organization or become an entrepreneur. Like, I didn't do that, but you learn simply by doing. And that first year, making that transition, I mean, I remember I was in a school schedule my whole life, from high school to college to teaching. This all happened consecutively. And
Right.
suddenly I was getting up in the morning and I didn't have to go to school. And I was like, this is crazy. So a lot of people say, oh, if you're not working somewhere, how do you get motivated? My office was in my home,
Right.
and I was waking up every morning early. I was popping out of bed because I couldn't wait to get started. And the film had a big part to do with that, because, all I had was my YouTube channel. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything, but I had my YouTube channel, and all I knew is that there were people talking to me.
Right.
And so I needed to answer back. I would
Wow.
spend maybe 20 hours a day, really, just responding to people's comments. What
Wow.
I didn't realize, because that was very natural to me. Someone's saying something to me, I'm going to say something back. But what I didn't realize at the time is that that was probably the greatest investment I ever made, because I was building these amazing relationships with people from all over the world, people speaking all different languages. And those people became my biggest cheerleaders. They became my team. I didn't have a staff. I didn't have, I myself am a full-time volunteer still till today for the organization. But those people, they came on the journey with me. They built this with me. And it was at the a few months into it is when I saw the power of what answering those comments was about. I had an idea, came to me in a dream. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth.
Doesn't sound crazy to me.
Yeah. And I tell you, I mean, in my dream, there was like thousands upon thousands of people standing in front of the UN, holding flags of their country, people from all over the world. And then on the other side of the flag, it said the motto of the organization: by living kindly, change is possible. And in my dream, there was like all these thousands of people were dancing and hand in hand, arm in arm. And I woke up and I said, wow, I gotta do this. You know why? Because dance brings people together. That energy, it makes people actually happy. There's scientific evidence behind it. I said, I want to be able to bring people together under this banner of kindness, to help us realize that it doesn't matter the differences in race, religion, ethnicity, culture, background. We are different. We're meant to be different. And guess what? We're meant to think different as well.
Yeah.
No, it's not a coincidence that in 8 billion people in the world, we all have different fingerprints.
Right.
No two people are the same. No two people's ideologies are the same. They could be similar, but they're not the same. And for me, the biggest thing, the biggest concept that Life Essence Inside is all about is empowering people to believe enough in what they believe in. Because if you believe enough in what you believe in, you're not fearful that somebody else's thoughts and ideologies are going to influence you.
Right.
Because if you're not secure, what are you going to do? You're going to shove your thoughts and ideologies down another person's throat.
Right.
I think the biggest thing that we can take is, if we can come to be secure in who we are and what we believe, we'll then be able to embrace others for what they believe. And that's what I wanted to create. I said, I want to do this World Kindness Day. I want to be able to celebrate World Kindness Day and bring people together from all over the world to say, yes, we're all different, but today we're going to dance. And we're going to dance as one.
Awesome.
And one thing we can all get behind, you might not be able to get behind lots of other stuff.
Yeah.
We can all get behind kindness.
Yeah.
And I put out a call and said, hey, who wants to join me to do this crazy, flash mob? And 30 people raised their hand. And I trained each of these 30 people. And we said, okay, we're going to do this together from 15 countries. And we organized our first, what we call Dance for Kindness. It's a global flash mob that happens in over 50 countries around the world, 120 cities, all on the same day, completely volunteer run. You're bringing people together. And I believe that the investment in just simply connecting to people is what really, continued to build that. And now it's a leadership training platform, Dance for Kindness, empowering people that want to make a difference to understand how you can take any great idea that you have and break it into its parts and put it into fruition. And that's what the group leaders learn. They learn skills. They learn resources. They receive tools. to be able to, after the event is over, to take those same skills and tools and implement it into their life. Because yes, you might have a big dream, and you should dream big. But if
Yeah.
you don't think small, you're never going to get there. You got
Right.
to remember to take that dream and break it down into its tiniest parts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then be comfortable with the process.
Yeah, and
Um,
trust the process, because it's not easy.
yeah.
There are days
Yeah.
when you want to throw in the towel. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
They
Take a
come.
rest on those days. Rest when you're tired. Don't quit. Um, so we had a conversation offline, and I thought it was a really good story that you talked about. So you're in Jerusalem now,
Yes.
and it was so cool how you talked about your process and how you got to Jerusalem. And I surely want you to tell that story of how you got to where you are, because Jerusalem is an interesting place to be at.
100% it is.
Especially for a New Yorker, Jerusalem is an interesting place to be at. How did you find your way to the Holy Land?
So I'll tell you, this was about 3 years ago.
Right.
3 years ago, I had decided I was going to come here just for the year. Now, I'll tell you, I didn't know how I was going to. I was here, let's see, it was the summer of 2017. I was here for about a month in the
Okay.
summer of 2017. And I was going through a bit of hardship, just questioning where I'm going next. There was a lot of difficult things going on in my life. And I just felt like I was stuck. And I have family that lives, my father's side family, I have family that lives here in Israel. And they said to me, why don't you come and live here for like 6 months? I said, well, how am I going to do that? I haven't made a salary since I started the nonprofit. I invested
Right.
all my savings into this. I'm a full-time volunteer. I was living in my parents' house. I'm like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to possibly do it? It's not feasible. And, but I really prayed on it. I really felt like I wanted to be here for several reasons. Number one, I love the diversity in the city. And that's something that makes me feel very at home, because New York is completely diverse.
Absolutely.
And Jerusalem is complete diversity. So I feel very at home. I live, just a few blocks away from the old city, where you have, you know, four different quarters: the Jewish quarter, the Muslim quarter, the Christian quarter, the Armenian quarter, all within this small space. I mean, crazy the amount of diversity, but it works. But it
Wow.
works here. And I realized, I said, I know that there's so much tension in this area. I said, if I could come here, if I can infuse some positive noise here, then the rest of the world is easy. Then the rest of the world is going to be covered.
Wow.
And I said, I really want to come here. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And through different miracles, I mean, honestly, I don't know if we have the time to share about them, but through some crazy miracles. And honestly, I always say I live on miracles, but living on miracles is not easy. How I got to live in the apartment that I got to live in because of the kindness of people. This apartment actually belongs to one of my former students' fathers, and he knew the kind of work that I do, and basically gifted me the ability to be here.
That's crazy.
Huge gift. And then in March of 2018, I said, okay, I'm going to come here. I said I'll be able to stay here for a year. And I just fell in love. From the minute that I touched down, there's an energy in the city. It's very hard to explain. I don't know if you've ever been to Jerusalem.
I have not. It's my bucket list of places.
I
One of the
gotta,
highest
you gotta
places on
put
my
it high
bucket
up on
list.
that list, because
Yeah, it's one
there
of
is
the
an
highest
energy
places.
here. I can try to explain it in words, but you need to experience it to understand it.
Yeah.
There's an energy that is very powerful, like really powerful, where you feel connected. There's a lot of
Wow.
potential here, and I just felt like I felt home. And this past March, right before COVID, I decided to make it a life choice, and I got my
Wow.
citizenship. I entered the country, and a couple of days later, they closed it down. I said, it's like I slid into home base, right? And in these past few years, I've become part of this city, organizing events, connecting people from different religions. I'm Jewish. I have loads of Muslim friends and Christian friends. I mean, I had that from prior through Life Vest Inside. I mean, the organization itself is not affiliated with any religion or politics in any way. And for me, being able being able to bring people together, being able to create dialogue, being able to show people that the world isn't as bad as we sometimes say it is.
Right.
Because I think the biggest problem is that we are magnifying, we sometimes tend to magnify issues. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean to stick your head in the sand, but when we're constantly seeing negativity, the negativity portrayed to us, it makes us think, wow, the world is terrible. And then what happens? We draw to us more negativity. It's just
Right.
like, imagine waking up in the beginning of your day and I don't know, your alarm was late and then you stepped in a big puddle running out and you missed the bus. And you're like, oh man, it's going to be one of those days. And you know what
Right.
ends up happening? It becomes one of those days.
Exactly.
You draw
It
that
becomes what you
energy
think
to
it's going to
you.
be.
But if you start to
Yeah.
see the world with the lens of kindness, when you start to see the beauty and the goodness that's out there, more beauty and goodness to show to you. So I know we look at what's happening in the world, and yes, there's a lot of negativity. I'm not going to say that there isn't. But
Right.
there is so much good. There is so much good. And if we could just focus on that good,
Yeah.
realize how lucky we are. We spend so much of our lives complaining when we don't realize how much we should be living in gratitude.
Right.
Gratitude is the greatest tool and force to infuse positivity into your world. When you
Wow.
wake up with gratitude and you just share the things you're grateful, even though if you have nothing, you have your sight, you should be grateful for your vision. You have
Right.
air in your lungs, you can walk. There is so much that we can say that we are grateful for. And when we come to acknowledge it, more reasons for gratitude come into our lives. It really does work this way. Is it easy? No, of course not.
No.
But anything that's worth it in this world is not going to necessarily be easy.
There are so many things. There are so many things that I could possibly talk to you about, and we could do this for another 2 hours probably. But I want to ask you because I don't have another 2 hours. We got limited time here. I want to ask you a question I always ask everybody that comes on.
Yeah.
There are certain people where I can guess this answer. Certain people I can't. I almost feel like I can guess the answer for you, but we'll see. Or you might surprise me. So I ask everyone the same question, just as like, just to hear everyone's answer, and it's always interesting with the answers that I get. But if there was one thing about the world in which you had a experience with God and a Jim Carrey and Morgan Freeman experience where God just sort of made you God for a day, and you could change about the world, what would it be?
It's a great question. I think that the greatest thing is to empower people to see the beauty within themselves. I got to tell you, I think that that's my biggest mission in life, because if people really saw that spark of awesomeness that's in them, that spark of God that's in them, however you want to call it, whether you believe or you don't believe, whatever it is, if
Right.
people had the ability to see that light that's inside of them, my goodness. Because I believe that the reason that unkindness exists in the world, or these hardships, or so many of the social issues exist, is because we don't see, we don't think that we're enough. If you really loved you, loving others is very easy. If
No
you really
problem.
saw you,
Yeah.
embracing others is really easy.
Sure. That's so. As it stands out, I would have been wrong.
What would you have said? I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
I would have thought that you would have said kindness, and you would have. And it's interesting. The other people have said kindness.
But
like
it is kindness. It's the greatest kindness.
yeah,
Because I'll tell you what it is. You see, kindness, my main goal in everything I do is empowerment.
yeah,
Kindness is the tool that empowers people. Why?
yeah.
Think about this. When you engage in an act of kindness, in an act of giving, why do you feel so good afterwards? Because in that moment of giving, you're actually being validated for who you are, not based on how much money you have or how you look, how fast you are, how
Sure.
wealthy you're, right? Just based on you.
Yeah.
You brought positive change into the world. Kindness is the tool to empower. Empowerment is our goal. So where does empowerment come from? If you can help people see the beauty in themselves, If you can help people truly see that, all of that goes by the wayside. Kindness is what helps us to see that. Because when you do something for others, you're, wow, why do you feel so good? Because you realize, wow, I just did that. I just made that person smile, and I didn't need to be that guy or the other, or that social media person or this one. I didn't have to have this amount of fans or that amount of likes. I just had to be me.
So as we wrap up, I want to make sure that people that are watching or listening can connect with you. And because I know that my audience that watches or listens to the Elevation podcast, it will be, is definitely interested in things like kindness and making a difference in the world and things of that nature. How can people connect with you, and just sort of connect and see what you're doing?
Okay, so I would say the best way to do so is on our website. It's lifevestinside.com. Lifevestinside.com. You'll be able to see all of our different initiatives to be able to be taken to our Dance for Kindness website. We have also danceforkindness.com or our Project Hope Exchange initiative. All of that is going to be able to find on our Life Vest Inside website. You can also subscribe. We have 2 newsletters that go out, one called The Daily Kind, one called The Kindness Flash. The Daily Kind is really fast growing. It's a 30-second read to kickstart your day with kindness, and it goes out Monday through Friday. We also have loads of resources on the website, from the Kindness Boomerang book that I've written, named after the film. It's an act of less than a day book in kindness, with each day here, an act, a quote, and then a short reflection on the power of paying it forward. We have our Catching Kindness cards and loads of other resources. And of course, you can always email me, as you know from what I shared on this program. I'll always respond. So you can email me directly, orly@lifevestinside.com. It's ORLY at lifevestinside.com, and I'd be happy to connect with you. I'd recommend subscribing to our YouTube channel. I post up a weekly video called The Kindness Kickoff with Orly, and and you'll be able to see loads of videos, including the Kindness Boomerang video there.
All right. Awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. I think that you have a lot to offer the world. Just a lot. And I know, like I said, we could probably sit here and I can ping off more things to to squeeze out of you. But like I said, we have limited time. But I really appreciate you for coming on, for being a part, just being a part of Elevation Podcast, because that
Thank you so much.
Does bring a lot to the audience and to people, and that's the goal here.
I really appreciate that, Shawn. I really appreciate the work that you're doing to elevate people's lives in different ways. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Oh, man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This has been the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff. Thank y'all very much. Every Tuesday at 7:30 is a new podcast that comes out. Hope you guys watch it. Hope you guys stay connected. We have had a great conversation today with Orly Wahba. And just learned a whole lot about kindness. Thank you guys so much. Catch you next time. Peace. years old, I started one of the first multi-artist gospel rap labels in the country. Who listens to that, they said. That has no future is what they told me. That's a dead end, they kept repeating. That's a career killer, they warned me. What they didn't understand is that a pioneer can see past what you think is possible and has the endurance to push it through. And my new media television platform is that pioneer's mind at work once again. I give the unheard a voice. I give the marginalized a stage. And I give the unfortunate a good hand. This is Christian media like you've never seen it before. Because this is Shawn Riff-Raff Studios.
I'm a Christian with $100 million vision. Can nobody box me and say that's a contradiction? Goal driven, God just blessed me with ambition. Look up when the rest, he rests the definition. Been through hell, but the fire couldn't crisp them. Shut down the mouths of anybody, you dismissed them. 20 years gospel rap broke all the traditions. Cause from a teenager I was on the same mission. So winner, he running God business. He got clothing, plus he got the boss with him. He got a squad with him, real no frauds with him. He running to the light cause he is an optimist. When everybody in the music biz narcissists, I will not rap a thing but my consciousness. Forever always a kingdom rap activist. It took a break for a minute, let's get back to this. Yeah. Been a soul winner, you cannot box me. Control center, you cannot box me. Flow with it, you cannot box me while I glow with it. You cannot box me, cause I'm stepping out.